This is Zettelcast, brought to you by readers, writers, thinkers, and teachers from LiLLiPub, along with our partners in thought, our Zettelcastans. In this show, we share discoveries that our Zettelcastans have shown us.
There you go.
And compare notes on how we're using this marvelous invention in our creative work. Thank you for joining us.
All right, Brooke, let's do it again.
All right.
Episode 72, Bottle the Lightning.
Hello, everybody. Deb Hart here. And today we are kicking off Zettelcast number 72. This is a different kind of activity, set of activities than what we've had before, in that I've asked my fellow authors to help me out and help me discover how it is that I wrote a particular story. And the story is called The Day the Nickname Dies. And it's all about, well, everybody at the workshop loved the story. Mm-hmm. And they said, oh, what a keeper. And I said, oh, wonderful. How did I do that? How did I do that? And so I went on this deep dive into the ChatGPT to see if I could make a custom GPT that would teach me what it is that I did. Well, I'm still there running around in the weeds trying to figure that out. In the meantime, I asked so many questions that I call myself coming up with a shorter version of Help Me that I presented to my fellow authors. And the idea was to, by answering a couple of questions and looking in a couple of spots in the story, if they could write a story of their own that demonstrated their story wearing the same outfit, if you will, that my story wore, without saying a bunch of stuff, but rather by looking at what the conversation that the character was having with themselves about a nickname, in this instance for Pamby. So this is what I tried to set up. And so hopefully this hour that we're spending together will yield fruit that will allow you to, if you want, to create a story of your own that wears these clothes. And so the idea is, although I really don't like the word formula, but it's true that these 12 points that came out of the conversation with me and ChatGPT, the idea is if you can follow those 12 points, and at the end of those 12 points, you will have created an original story that wears the same clothes. So it's kind of a reverse engineering of the reverse engineering, if you will. So, anybody want to go first?
Well, can I ask you, Deb, since you are our inspirational story, I think it would be fitting at this point for you to read your story first, because I know that Julianne and I each went in different directions. We picked up on different features that we loved in your story and took them in different directions. So why don't you share your story?
Okay. Now, are you asking me to read the original story?
Yeah.
Okay. The Day the Nickname Dies. The room is colder than it needs to be. That's the first thing she notices. Not the questions, not the cameras, not the polished wood of the Diaz that smells faintly of lemon oil and old authority. The air conditioning hums with bureaucratic indifference, set to a temperature chosen by someone who will never sit still long enough to feel it. Her hands rest on the table, fingers folded, still, disciplined. She has learned that stillness reads as confidence. Behind her, an aide leans in just enough to whisper, 5 minutes. She nods once, does not turn. She knows what 5 minutes means. 5 minutes until the hearing resumes. 5 minutes until the question becomes less about facts and more about posture. 5 minutes until responsibility stops being something you carry and becomes something you perform. She breathes in through her nose, slow, controlled. She has trained herself to breathe this way. Prosecutors learn early that oxygen is leverage. Her eyes drift, just briefly, to the audience seats, staffers, reporters, observers who think they are neutral. No one meets her gaze. They are already writing their stories, already slotting her into templates prepared weeks ago. Once, long ago, she would have looked in for a face she recognized, a victim, a family member, someone who needed reassurance that the system saw them. She used to find those faces instinctively, the way a mother finds her child in a crowded room. Not today. Today, she scans for threat vectors. Who is hostile? Who is undecided? Who will chip a sentence out of context? This is when it happens. The moment so small, it almost escapes notice. A voice from the second row, soft, familiar. Pamby? It is not loud. It is not mocking. It is almost tentative, as if testing whether the word still belongs in the room. Her spine stiffens before her mind catches up. She knows that voice. It belongs to a woman she worked with years ago, back when the work smelled like case files and burnt coffee and human fear. A woman who once watched her sit on a courtroom bench beside a sobbing teenager because the interview room felt too much like an interrogation. A woman who, on more than one occasion, had said the name with affection, with relief. Pamby. The one who stays, the one who listens, the one who takes the hit so others do not have to. For a fraction of a second, memory surges. A narrow hallway, fluorescent lights buzzing, her jacket draped over a witness's shoulder. The way responsibility once felt like weight, yes, but also like purpose. She turns, finally, and meets the woman's eyes. There it is. Expectation. Hope. Not political hope, human hope. The quiet belief that the person you once knew is still reachable. The room seems to wait with her. This is the hinge, the place where the story could bend another way. She could smile, just a little. She could nod, acknowledge the history. She could say, it's been a long time. She could let the nickname land, reclaim it, even briefly. But the cameras are rolling. And more importantly, she understands in a way she did not 10 years ago what that would cost. Pamby is not compatible with this room. Pamby hesitates. Pamby listens too long. Pamby answers questions that were never meant to be answered. Pamby creates openings where certainty is required. Pamby does not survive at this altitude. Responsibility as it exists now cannot afford tenderness. Tenderness is misinterpreted, weaponized, used as proof of weakness or worse, doubt. She feels something tighten in her chest. Not guilt. Not exactly. More like the closing of a door she had been pretending remained ajar. Her expression did not change. She inclines her head just enough to be polite, just enough to be distant. Ma'am, she says evenly, formal, neutral. The word lands like a boundary. The woman's face falls. Not dramatically, just enough to register the loss. A micro expression, the kind she used to notice immediately. No one else reacts. The moment passes unnoticed by the room at large. But something irreversible has occurred. The aide behind her exhales softly, almost imperceptibly. A sound of relief. Crisis averted. No softness captured on camera. No narrative complications. She feels the strange satisfaction of a line held. The gavel strikes. The hearing resumes. Questions fly, sharp, framed, designed not to extract truth, but to force alignment. She answers them flawlessly. Her voice is steady, modulated to signal authority without aggression. She does not over-explain. She does not volunteer. This is competence. This is control. This is what responsibility looks like now. Inside, a quieter reckoning unfolds. She realizes with startling clarity that she did not choose to abandon the nickname in that moment. She simply recognized that it no longer fit the shape of the person required to stand where she stands. Responsibility had changed its demands. Once, it asked her to absorb pain. Now, it asked her to deflect it. Once, it asked her to sit beside the broken. Now, it asked her to maintain order among the powerful. Once, it required her presence. Now, it requires her absence. The hearing ends. Chairs scrape. The room empties with the efficiency of people who have already moved on to the next thing. As she gathered her papers, she feels the faintest flicker of something like mourning. Not for the woman who called out, for herself. Not for the self she was, the self she could have been, had responsibility taken a different shape. In the hallway, another aide asks if she needs anything. No, she says, and means it. She walks toward the waiting cameras, posture perfect, expression composed. Behind her, unspoken, unmourned, Pamby does not follow. The nickname does not die loudly. It does not protest. It simply finds no place to stand. And responsibility, immense and impersonal, closes around what remains. So that was the story.
Yeah.
And I like the story.
Good for you.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to say, oh my goodness, that was okay.
Yeah.
Come on, Muse, how did I do that? You know, let's do another one. I got nothing. I got silence. And so that's how I ended up going on this custom GPT excursion. And that's when I mentioned it to my co-authors here. They said, well, you know, let's maybe we can help you explore that. But that was assuming that I would be able to give them a link and they could use the custom GPT in whatever finished version I had at the time to explore what I was trying to do. But I just got myself in the weeds and wasn't able to do that. So I tried to pivot and create this set of questions that we have in front of us today as the activity. So the goal for today in this pivot is reverse engineer why the story worked. Then test whether you can reproduce one effect deliberately. So there are a number of effects in the story. And the question is, can my fellow writers do this thing that I was having so much trouble doing myself? And so I asked to bring a markup excerpt from the story to the meeting today, a short craft diagnosis, a 350 word micro scene. And the first part of it was to create a what's called a reader heat map. Now, in the initial instructions, there were 7 terms that I had predefined, and one of them was heat map, or heat map lines. And so if the first instruction is part 1, reader heat map, read the story once straight through and then skim it again and mark these following 3 things. 3 lines that hit you the hardest in that story. 1 hinge moment, and the hinge moment is defined as the small turning point where the story becomes irreversible. 1 choice or beat that changes everything after it. In the case of the story, it's ma'am, that 1 word, ma'am, because after that, there is no conversation that Pamby, pardon me, can participate in. She just has no place to stand. And on earth, you got no place to stand, you can't be, so might be different someplace else, but not here. So there is that. So the question is, does either one of you want to go for part 1 or any part of the instructions, or just to share a story of whatever it is you did as a result of the instructions that I provided?
Okay. I did the instructions first in terms of your story to kind of as a warm up so I could identify for myself which lines were, the really impactful lines for me in your story. And then after I wrote mine, I looked for impactful lines. I identified your hinge and then looked for mine, and then answered the two different questions that you had posed in your story and in mine. So I'm going to start with your story because we just heard it. And so that sounds like a good place to begin before, because mine takes it in a different direction. So I want to stay with yours because your story was enormously impactful. You had a fusion writing where we meet every Saturday on LiLLiPub. Deb brought her story over there, and we just had a wonderful time reading her story. It was so impactful. So for me, the lines that hit the hardest were, I had 4. I couldn't weed it down to 3. The one where you're talking about the mother finds the face of her child in a crowd and relating that to how she found the faces that needed her moral support. Priceless. And then the line where you talked about how she felt it in her spine before her mind. Because, of course, if that's physiologically, that's really what happens. We sense it before it gets to our brain. Our brains are slow. Then, of course, the line about the closing of a door that she had hoped was still open, and she knows now that that's not there. And then a scene, it's just like a little throwaway, but it just made you right smack there physically in the courtroom when you talked about the scraping of the chairs and the efficiency with which people move on to the things that other things they have to do that day. Wow, that is so real. And that one was just, that was when my extra fourth that I couldn't let go of. I knew it wasn't key for your plot, but oh, it was so real. It just made the whole thing so real. I couldn't let it go. Sorry, I disobeyed.
No, because reader involvement is critical.
Yeah, yeah,
Reader involvement is that's the best word I can come up with.
yeah.
Critical.
Yep. And then I disagreed with you on the hinge. Well, I agreed and I disagreed. Because, like you said, spine and mind. Ma'am hit me in the spine. When it got to my mind was when you talked about Pamby is not compatible with this room. That's when it hit to my mind. So there was no single hinge. There was a spine hinge and a mind hinge. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
And then there was the two questions, and I got to go back to the questions because I didn't write the question down, and my answer won't make sense without it. Um, oh, I felt the turn because. Okay, then I felt the turn with the word ma'am, again, a spine reaction, because the woman's face falls flat, and not dramatically. It's just like, oh, you know, she probably thinks that Pamby has forgotten who she is. She doesn't realize that Pamby knows who she is, but cannot acknowledge her at that moment. If it were a different setting, if she ran into her in a restaurant, she would have probably jumped up and given her a hug when she heard Pamby. But she couldn't do it in that room.
Not with all the witnesses.
Yep.
Not with the
Yep.
cameras rolling.
And then after that turn, the story made me believe what? That Pam is stealing now. She's lost something of herself. Hopefully, the sacrifice was worth the need that she's feeling now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to stop there because I don't want to take it in another direction until I hear what Julianne had to share on your story.
Okay. So I have a little bit of a different take. And I think it's quite a different take, in fact. Um, so, well, I think that the context is going to be helpful. When I began my last job, which was in 2001, that was my last job was from 2001 to the middle of 2025. It was working for a very big established corporation. And my husband, who knew me very well, knew that I was not prepared from my experience to work in such a place with the expectations that I would instinctively bring to it. And so he recommended that I read a book. And that book is called Conduct Expected.
Ooh.
And it's a series of unwritten rules in corporations. Rules of engagement, ways to behave that nobody's going to tell you. And one of the fundamentals in that is that this is your job. Don't confuse it with your identity. You are not at your job to self-actualize. You are at your job to do the work that the company needs. Don't go in trying to remake it in your own naive image of how you want everybody to be. That's for your family. Go for it. And if you find that you are a completely different person on the job than at home, get used to that. That is the conduct that is expected. You're going to see some of your colleagues out of context in the Home Depot or whatever, and you're not necessarily going to get the same guy. And so some of the rules were very harsh, and I had to make my way from it. So one of them is don't crack jokes. What you think is funny, you don't know these people. You don't know the situation. You could destroy your career in a heartbeat by making the wrong kind of joke. And not even an offensive joke, any joke, right? If people project you being a joker in a serious situation, you're a liability. So, and I'm a, anybody who's around me knows I crack jokes all the time. So it's not that I didn't ever, I did, but I learned to read the room where in this, very big corporation that had lots of different inner populaces, where that worked and where it would absolutely not. It's a lot like the dress code. Right? The way I dress at home isn't the way that I would dress at the office. It's all the conduct expected. So that frame was very much in my mind as I read this. And I spoiler, I didn't read it that Pamby lost anything. Pamby can still be Pamby at home. And one of the things that that really hit me was in your list of the 5 minutes, the final one, the coup de grace, is 5 minutes until responsibility stops being something you carry and becomes something you perform.
Yeah.
And this is an arena that is theatrical. And the people who know that they are acting the part are the ones who succeed. And Pamby entered that arena, and she needs to get in the game. Or what anticipates might happen if she tries to hang on to this old identity from a completely other career, she will not be in the game. She'll be destroyed. So that was one of the 5 minutes until responsibility stops being something you carry and becomes something you perform. I view that not as her burden, that's her privilege. And it's in line with another of the lists, which is Pamby, the one who stays, the one who listens, the one who takes the hit so others do not have to. She's taking a hit here. The different kind of hit.
Different kind of hit, yeah.
So that was one, or two of them, right? Kind of a pair. And then right at the very beginning, the room is colder than it needs to be. Now, I will say, when I first heard you read it in Fusion Writing, and you said the air conditioning hums with bureaucratic indifference, set to a temperature chosen by someone who will never sit still long enough to feel it. If you think about it, that person who is so restless could have, in his or her own mind, been doing a kindness. How would I feel comfortable here? I'm on the move all the time. Places are always hot. I'm gonna turn down the temp because it's gonna be full of people, right? So it's and what that means is that there is a kind of a projection that the narrator or the main character or whatever can be having towards this whole room, where you take it as just kind of a lion's den, where Pamby is at a disadvantage everywhere she turns. But she doesn't have to see it that way. Nobody has to see it that way. And maybe the people who really succeed in these arenas don't take it that way. They take it whatever way fuels their own power.
Okay.
Similarly, I love the thing about her breathing through her nose, and she's trained herself to breathe this way. Prosecutors learn early that oxygen is leverage.
Uh-huh.
That struck me as, well, that's one thing you get from it. You also get the calming effect of breathing
Yeah,
slowly.
yeah. Mhm.
So it, just the attitude that is kind of filling the room, maybe prosecutors learn that, and maybe Pamby sees it both ways. It's calming, and the calm is, she's not stealing anybody else's oxygen.
That's right.
Yeah. Um, and to me, the turning moment is right after she meets the woman's eyes.
Oh.
There it is, expectation, hope, not political hope, human hope, the quiet belief that the person you once knew is still reachable. And to me, again, with the context of conduct expected, that woman is not doing her any favors.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
It's kind of a selfish act, if you look at it. It's, I know you from before. You could take it that way. I know you from before, and before you were not going to be in this room.
Oh.
So the woman's expectations are out of place in this arena. And just like Kathleen said, you call her Pamby in a restaurant? Lovely. Here? Woman, what are you doing? Calling attention to me like that. So no hard feelings. Just that wasn't right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, those are the moments that I flagged. So there's one of the beautiful things about this story is that there's more than one way to read it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like
I
human
only read
beings.
it that one way until just now.
Yeah.
That and hats off to you and your husband, or to his wide breadth of reading, and the fact that he knew you well enough to know that this was an appropriate suggestion, a
Yeah.
necessary suggestion, and
Yeah.
one that I wish somebody had made for me, because I spent over 20 years in corporate America, and not once, not one day did I feel comfortable there. Not mentally, and certainly not physically, because it was always too cold for me. Always, always. And so, regardless of whether I was working regular day shift or working the 3-day work week that we had at one point, didn't matter, day or night. I was still uncomfortable, whether the whole population was there, like in the daytime, or the skeleton staff. It was like I was always second guessing myself, because more than once did I find my foot in my mouth.
Yeah.
And not realizing that I had, stepped in territory that what I said just didn't belong.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Just exactly the way you were describing.
Yeah.
Wow. What's the name of that book again?
Conduct expected. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, fascinating.
Yeah. Conduct expected. Wow.
Yeah. During those 24 plus years of working there, I thanked my husband multiple times.
Mm. Yeah.
I did recommend it to some people. I don't think anybody took my recommendation.
Oh.
Um, what do you know?
It sounds like it would be a great book to use for what Victoria talks about. She's talking this month on research-driven writing. And if you were going to create a scene that took place in a corporate world, that sounds like a wonderful reference to
Yeah.
read to create a believable corporate environment. Because you could easily have your character um, do something inappropriate and not understand
Yeah.
what he'd done.
Yeah.
Wow. Who's, no, I'll just look it up. I was going to ask you, who was it by?
Yeah,
Okay.
sure. I will. I neglected to bring it's downstairs,
Uh-huh.
but I will.
No, I mean, I can
Yeah.
just pop over to Amazon and put, I mean, how
Yeah.
many books can be called Conduct Expected? You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
I think that it was updated and I read the update. It was like conduct expected for the 21st century
Oh,
because it had this was a like a second version of the book, but so it talked about the kinds of faux pas that you can create with email, for example, which wasn't this thing when the book first came out.
right. And the person, I mean, I don't want to get, too far off topic with this, but this is fascinating to me. It's
Yeah.
fascinating. The person who wrote the book, what kind of background did they have? What would they?
I don't actually recall. I don't
Uh,
recall. Yeah.
okay.
I
Maybe.
mean, it reads harsh.
Uh-huh.
It's like it prepares you to go into corporate battle.
Uh-huh.
Wow. It's like it sounds like the blue and pink book that none of us ever got, and I'm calling the blue and pink book, the blue book for boys and the pink book for girls as the book, the how to get along in life.
Yeah.
We didn't come with a manual, so uh wow. Okay. So um with mine, I just had the setup lines, and in the story when I reproduced it, each paragraph had a number, so
Uh-huh.
it was easy to reference. So the setup is lines 11 through 13, and 11 is, this is when it happens, the moment so small it almost escapes notice, a voice from the second row. And line 13, soft, familiar. And then the setup line is Pamby. So then there is line 25. Oh, and before line 25 is line 24. The room seems to wait for her answer, or to wait with her. And line 25, this is the hinge. And line 35 is the hinge line, which is, ma'am. She says evenly, formal, neutral. The word lands like a boundary because she's saying, not here.
Yeah.
With that single word, and
Yeah.
and the way she says it,
Yeah.
you know. And then the payoff line, which is line 38, but something irreversible has occurred.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when the hinge swung, and it swung, the door closed. Right. So that was the way I took that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now part two, I gotta tell you, part two, I didn't get it together myself.
No, I didn't either.
I did not. I mean, I understood. Okay, let me for the audience, let me just read part two. It's craft DNA. Supposed to take 15 to 25 minutes. Okay. Pick 5 devices from the list below. Choose for each chosen device, and we're talking about literary devices. Find one clear example in the story. Copy the lines, then write 2 one-sentence notes about those lines. Okay. There are these two lines are supposed to address effect and mechanism. And the devices, and I'll just rattle them off. There are 10 of them. Concrete sensory detail, the subtext, the stakes and desire, conflict and friction, setup and payoff. Repetition with variation, contrast and juxtaposition, symbol and motif, voice, tone, and diction, syntax and rhythm. So the idea was to take five of these devices, pick out of this list of 10, and create the effect, what it did to you as a reader, and the mechanism of how it achieved what you felt. I did not get very far on that one myself. I did not. And you may wonder how is it that I came up with this assignment if I wasn't able to fulfill the assignment myself? Well, it's because it came about as a result of the foray that I went through, the ins and outs and ups and downs and backs and forth that I went through with the custom GPT that I was writing.
Uh-huh.
And these parts came out of that. That's why. So
I did it, and it didn't actually take, not that I did it so beautifully, but I did it, and I was proud of myself that I didn't take longer than the 15 to 25 minutes that you suggested.
Well,
so the very first line, the room is colder than it needs to be. There's sensory. Well, so here's a theme. I didn't find really many powerful uses of these techniques or devices in isolation. They usually had a combination that made them more powerful, in my view. And so the room is colder than it needs to be is sensory with subtext.
Mm-hmm.
Taking a message from the cold. It's colder than it needs to be. How cold does it need to be?
Right. And who says it needs to be? Yeah. Right.
Now, the repetition with variation is something that's used a lot in this story. Really comes out a lot. There's several different instances. The first one is the list of the 5 minutes. She knows what 5 minutes means. 5 minutes until the hearing resumes. 5 minutes until the questions become less about facts and more about posture. 5 minutes until responsibility stops being something you carry and becomes something you perform. So there's repetition, there's rhythm, and the rhythm is little, bigger, biggest kind of thing. And in the two, the two and the three, the second and the third of those repetitions, you've got the contrast. Responsibility stops being something you carry and becomes something you perform, is the last one. Questions become less about facts and more about posture. So we've got all these balancing acts.
Nuances,
yeah. And there are quite a few of those. That's just the first. But there are several more of those. Like Pamby, the one who stays, the one who listens, the one who takes the hit, so others do not have to. It's again that repetition. And then back with the thing that prosecutors learn early, that oxygen is leverage, that is a very early establishment of stakes.
Stakes.
With sensory.
Yeah. Like the preparation, like that book prepared you early on,
Yeah. Yeah.
before you stepped on the stage, so to speak.
Yeah.
Uh, well, fantastic. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I probably was thinking too literally because I was looking for each one
Right.
as opposed to letting them flow into each other,
Right.
and finding instances like that. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
you're going to enjoy reading it again because, there's a lot of what's so powerful in this prose is that juxtaposition a lot
Yeah.
Yeah, I
right
just
within
it
in a
just
sentence.
bounced, flowed, bounced as I was, the way I write poetry. I mean, it just, well, it flowed out the way it flowed out. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. But that was it. Because I'm looking at this and I'm reading through it and I'm enjoying it and I'm saying, oh, because I don't know how I did it.
Well, Deb, this isn't the only thing you've written. You've posted several things. I'm going to even say many things. And whenever you post something, we all sit up because your writing is so fresh and so natural and inspired that I would say, just how did you do any of them? Instead of saying, okay, I did this and then I did this and then did this and then that worked and I got to do this and this. No, you listened to your muse and you wrote, and that's what you have to do again.
Well, see, the thing is, without getting, too much into my stuff, let me just say that it would be good if what I'm looking, not necessarily control,
Yeah.
but reliability.
Yeah. Well, do your experience cards like Victoria has taught us. You know, one a day, write an experience. That's something you can control. You don't need your muse because it doesn't have to come out good. It's just capturing something from your memory, from your experience. Heaven knows you've got a ton of stuff going on in your life. Capture something, one card, no bigger than that, every day, day in and day out, and your muse will start coming to you more and more and more. And then the problem will be, Muse, give me a break. I can't write fast enough.
I'll give you two salutes. One, say, because one of the things when you, no matter who you read in terms of writing, writers who giving other writers advice, and one of them is write constantly. Write consistently at the very least once a day, if not more often. So, right. And the idea is write it now because you cannot trust that it'll stay in your head. That you turn around and look, but I just had that what, and it's gone.
Yep. Yep.
It's
Like
gone.
Victoria says, the words won't stay in your head forever. Put them on
Yeah,
paper.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Or on cards.
Yeah.
yeah. Zettelcast them so you can recast them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's.
So your third activity was to write a little story, right? I didn't write a little story. I know that Kathleen did. So I have a card for the story that I will write.
Okay.
And I took it again thinking about nicknames because nicknames are actually important to me in the Roanoke story. It occurred to me that Sonny might have a nickname. And it's something that got attached to him as an awkward kid, so socially awkward kid. Instead of being called Sonny, people call him Sorry because
Oh.
he's always sorry. And as we uh, learn, he and Chris, one of the things that they do together, Chris is coaching Sonny on wrestling. Sonny being a gawky, tall, scrawny kid, it's gonna, or young man, it's gonna seem like, well, that's weird. Uh, but eventually he's gonna have a match or two. And imagining him being in a match with somebody who was kind of a bully toward him.
Oh.
And so I have them. This might be a little, hinge moment that happens that's right here on the card. Um, the kind of wrestling that I'm imagining um, is also known by the word grappling. And there are different kinds of wrestling, and this one is likely to have been uh, um, handed down by Chris's ancestors. Um, and so the matches begin with something that's called the ceremonial grip. And it's just meant to, it's one of those ceremonies that you touch each other in a certain way, and you're acknowledging that you're going to be sportsmanlike, right? But so this is Sonny and a character called Baz. Ready for your lesson? Sorry? Baz laughed in Sonny's ear at the grip. An image of the Ganges, courtesy of Millie, touched and vanished in Sonny's mind. I'm readiness itself, Foob, he returned. So sorry, I've already told you where that comes from. Well, Baz, if people know foo and bar, they also know that Baz is often the third variable name that is used. Foo, bar, Baz. And so Foobar or Foob is Baz's nickname from that same time. And Foobar also has another meaning.
Yeah.
Effed up beyond all recognition.
Yeah. Well, mine is, like you said, a short scene. You said 250 to 300 words. So this is 289. And it's exploring the concept of a major life transition that's irreversible, totally irreversible. Only in this case, the main character hasn't even realized yet that she's made the transition. Unlike Pam, who understands that Pamby no longer affects her, she will discover that she has made this huge transition later. And this is our gal from the story, Teresita, who, due to an injury and a misunderstanding, misdiagnosis, family fell apart. She missed acquiring language and was thought to be mentally incompetent to pass the point where language acquisition normally takes place. And so she was pretty much treated as a combination of autistic, not quite fully mentally competent, just kind of a pleasant little child that doesn't get into too much trouble, so she just kind of gets dragged around different places. So, and the other characters in the story are Bala, whom if you remember, Bala is on a spaceship with his parents, and he's a kid who voices every action that he makes, and he does it in this kind of a rhythmic, chanty way. And the other character in the story is a tree named Jinx, and we're just barely getting to know this tree, but we'll get to know her a little bit better in this story, which is titled The Voice of Bala. Rosa decided to bring Teresita to the build-up when the third person she asked to watch her had said they too were attending this exciting event. Oh well, she thought, sure that Teresita would find some tree to sit under and amuse herself with whatever it was that amused her when she sat under the stairs or under a work table. But trees are not tables or staircases, even when they are made of wood. So when Teresita looked for a spot at the base of Jinx, she discovered some surprisingly comfortable roots on the far side of the tree's massive trunk. There, with the tree trunk at her back and a curtain of leaves in front of her, she felt especially protected. Though it was not her usual musings that entertained her, she was listening to the voice of Bala. No one thought Teresita to turn off her link, so she was happily replaying the full 3-hour recording of Bala and the Bezier belt for the 5th time. She didn't know when or how it happened, or really even that it had happened, but she had gradually transitioned from delight in the rhythm of Bala's voice and gestures to full and complete comprehension of everything he said and did. As she watched and listened, Jinx was slowly dropping its branches on the side of the tree behind her to conceal her from the view of the gathering. Then, timed to perfection with the recording, just as Bala was in the greenhouse harvesting bast for the net weaving, Jinx gently lifted the branches in front of her to reveal a lovely patch of bast that was just about at the peak of perfection.
Ooh! Yay!
I can't wait for the next installment of her.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm ladies, I have done a Deborah in that I did write a little thing myself, but I can't find it. It's supposed to be with all the other ZC #72 stuff, but it's not here. So, and I'm not quick enough on my feet to be able to punt with that. You know, uh, I cannot do that. So, um, I appreciate what both of you have done. um, and it just goes to show that the the outfit that I'm talking about can be worn in various ways,
Mhm.
and that comes through loudly and clearly, and that to me it's worth the pain or the upsets or the whatever that I'm going through as a result of this episode. It's okay because I've learned to see the story with wider eyes than I had before.
Yeah.
Um, in terms of what the story itself is saying, plus wider eyes in terms of that analogy, that notion of the outfit being able to, you can purposefully, deliberately use it in different scenarios, different ways, and come out with um similar but different endings,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So totally worth it. Totally worth it. Um so I don't have the contribution. um and what was that was another part 4.
That's it.
One revision passed. Well, I can't revise what I don't have.
Yeah, I can't revise what I don't have either.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So
It's very fruitful though, right?
Mhm.
To take these to take this list as don't know, it's not a set of rules. It's just like levers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that was the thought. That was the thought. I mean, that's one of the reasons, and here we go. It's not like Victoria is telling me to plug her book. No, that's not it. I'm so looking forward to her book because it has so many of the answers that I really, really, really need to have.
Yeah.
So many clarifications, and as I'm understanding, not only does she define these devices, but she gives exercises and so you have an opportunity to learn and apply,
Yeah.
which makes them stickier. It's I cannot wait. It should be here soon. And the
This
part,
week.
This
yes,
week. Yeah. Yeah.
the part the part that I'm looking forward to. I'm just gonna have to skip to it when the book comes, and that is the various types of stories one can write,
Oh, yeah.
right? Because she speaks in terms of the fact that we are kind of trained to think in terms of the hero's journey,
Yeah.
conflict driven stories, that kind of thing, or character driven stories, but the hero's journey.
Yeah.
But unless I'm misquoting her, I think she said there's at least 12 or maybe 20. I don't know, something with a T. Number of different types of stories
Yeah.
that she's collected from around the world,
Yeah.
so that we can look as writers and say, okay, well, I want to write this kind of story, and then you know be able to follow her lead and create the story. So it's like you have all of these outfits hanging up in your closet, and you can just pick one. But now with the aid of her book, I'll know what to call it.
Yeah, it's helpful.
Yeah. So I know what to call it. Know what I'm thinking about when I think along those terms. Outstanding, just so outstanding.
I think people should go to victoriacrowder.com
Yes,
Definitely.
and
and
buy
order
the
the
book.
book.
Yes. You can buy it. It is done. It is shipping. Get it. And by the time that everyone tunes in next week, we lucky few will have already gotten ours.
I know.
Yes.
Yes. And after the initial 500 are sold out, guess what? You get in the print on demand queue. So you might have to wait up to 3 weeks to get your book. So hurry if you've been watching Victoria all this time, and you've been saying, "Oh, I can't wait." Get over there and get your copy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you know what she found out? She hadn't even finished her debugging of the site. She had it tucked away at a URL that she thought no one would know about so she could finish her testing. Someone discovered it, ordered her book, and started passing the link around. She had 5 book orders while she was still testing.
Just goes how
Not guilty.
how just goes to show how anticipated this book is,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
right? And a book that all our wishes called for,
Yeah.
called for,
Yeah.
and she was able to answer.
That's,
She
yeah, we were reading her novel, folks. She didn't even have the idea she was going to write a book. And we said, wait a minute, you've got to write this book. And we hounded her.
at
So when you see it in your hands and
560.
you love it, you can credit us.
I wasn't it. I think I heard on one of her. It's 560 pages.
Yeah.
That's
500 and some pages. It's a beast.
yeah. But it's okay. That makes it cradleable. Can
Oh,
hug the
and be
gems to my
sure
chest.
to come on over to lillypub.org when you get your copy. because, we are going to be talking about it nonstop. You just know that. There's nothing that's going to keep us quiet about it. And furthermore, along with your book purchase, you're going to get a coupon for a 1 month free trial of LiLLiPub. So you can spend a month talking about it with us at no cost. And then it's only $8 a month after that. So this is definitely time to be thinking about LiLLiPub, if not before. I mean, we are just exploding with excitement over there. So come on over.
Yep. 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 Wow. So, but probably, and this custom GPT was my foray into solving this. How did I do that problem without her book?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because I know that the answer is in the book.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's in there.
Yeah. And if you
So
do all of her exercises every day, and many of them won't take any more space than this, just do everything she teaches you. Do a little exercise on it that very day you read about it. You will have it in your repertoire. You'll be able to call on it in a natural way. You won't have to have a list from ChatGPT. First I do this, then I do this, then I do this. It'll just spring forth from your writing.
the way you describe that, the way you say that, reminds me of the words and the tone and the presentation that you, Julianne, um, displayed for us when you were talking about the first thing you decided to commit to memory via Anthony Mativier.
Mhm.
Right. So that the scaffolding fell away. And I mean the memory palace, which is the scaffolding, fell
Yeah.
away after a while. And you just had it. You had the things that you wanted to remember at will. They were just there and available.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'm thinking this is this is it for today.
I think so.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. So thank you so much, ladies. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.